Welcome to Shomach Shav on the Daf. We're holding in Chulin Daf Ayin Beis. The Gemara, starting from the previous Daf, going into this Daf, speaks about the idea of a tumo blua, of a swallowed tumo, that is not metame. Meaning, if a tumo is swallowed in the womb, so then the tumo is not metame. Now, there is a halacha that's negel l'maaseh based on this. The Shach in Yerideo Siman Shin Ayin Aleph, he brings the name of the Rekeach, that Eishes Kohen, who's pregnant, is allowed to go into oil hameis, allowed to go in a place where there's a mace. Why? Because there's Sovik Sveiko. First, maybe it's a nefil, it won't be a baby that will live. And the second thing is, maybe it's an akeva, maybe it's a female. So the Sovik Sveiko, you don't have to be choishish to make the baby in the womb of a kohenes tameh, because he's a kohen who's not allowed to go into oil hameis. So I asked the Mogen Avram in Orachaim Siman Shimim Gimel, Siv Cotton Base, why does it have to come to the Sovik Sveiko? Even if we know it's a zocher and we know it's not a nefil, it's a tumah blua. There's no, we just learned in our sugyo that if a thing is belua, it's swallowed, it's in the womb, it doesn't receive tumah, it doesn't give tumah. So why won't be the problem to go with the fetus, with the vlad of a kohen into oil hameis? So this question is discussed by many of the achronim. The Ridbaz in Chilak Aleph Siman Reish, he brings this discussion and he says that the reason why here is a problem is because we're choishish, we're talking about a woman who's already 9 months pregnant. Maybe the labor will start in oil hameis. Maybe the head of the baby is going to come out in oil hameis. That's why we have a chashash. That's why we tell her not to go in oil hameis. That's why we don't say balua. Comes the Rekach and says that Mimanav Shach should be okay because, first of all, maybe it's a stillborn, maybe it's a nefil, and maybe it's an akeva. So that's why, in that case, you should not have a problem. But a woman who's in the middle of pregnancy, so of course you have no issue because of balua. The Pri Megadim, when he brings the Mogen Avram, that quotes the Rekach, so the Pri Megadim there in Orachaim Siman Shemem Gimel, he says, why is this sex feiko? What's a sex feiko? Suffix number one, maybe it's a stillborn. Roiv Noshim, they give birth to live babies, to healthy babies. So how can you rely on this sex feiko? So explains Pri Megadim, really, it's a tumah blua, which is okay. But tumah blua is only mutter midiraisa. Midirabanan, you're machmir. When you have a six feiko, you're not machmir anymore. So that's what he puts it together. The reason Rekach has to come to six feiko, they tell you why it's not even Isser derabanan to go into oil hameis. The Chasaf Sofer in Yerideo Siman Shin Dala brings the Pri Megadim, and he argues, he says, even if there's a Isser derabanan by tumah blua, there's no azhara for the kohen to be careful with it. There's two things. One is there a problem of tumah derabanan? The second thing is, therefore you have to be careful not to go into oil hameis. We never find such an azara. So even if you want to tell me there's some kind of Isser derabanan, why will a mother can't go into oil hameis and get this tumah? The Avnei Miluim in Siman Pei Beis Ois Aleph, he says that a fetus, a vlad, b'mei imoi, is not considered to be tumah blua. What we talk about in our sugya tumah blua is regarding a tabas. We talk about a ring that went in the stomach of somebody. So it doesn't really belong to the stomach. It's called tumah blua. It's swallowed. But a fetus is not considered to be tumah blua. It's considered to be part of the mother. And the same thing says in Minchas Chinuch, Mitzvah Reish Samech Gimel, or his Gimel. He says the uber is considered to be uber yerachim, or it's one of the limbs of the mother. So even though it's inside, it's an internal limb, of course it becomes tummy. It brings raya from any internal limb of a person. It becomes tummy together with the person. So therefore, you have an issue over here unless you come to six feiko. And Rabbi Yochanan Wasserman, the Kovitz Shiurim Chilak Beis Mimalef, he says a chiddush, a chiddush. He says sometimes there's no tumah. But even though there's no tumah, there's still an isser to be in oil hameis. It brings an example, when you have a person who's a goisis, he's on his deathbed, there's no tumah yet, but there's still an isser for a kohen to be there. Not because he's going to die, but because he's considered to be mace regarding these things, even though it doesn't cause tumah. So the same thing over here. Tumah will not go in here because it's tumah blua. But still, there's oil hameis. You have isser oil hameis. You have to come to sik to say why you can come in. So the Ma'aseh, the Achronim bring different reasons to explain for this din of the Rekeach. And the Shiur Knesset Gdoil already mentions it was a minug in many Mekaymis that Eishes Kohen should not go into a base kvaros. And even though he argues, because he says the Rekeach says you're allowed to, it's because Sfik Sfik you're allowed to, but you see that he brings that minug. The Minchas Yitzchok and Chilak Yud Siman Mem Beis, he brings that today people say in the name of older women that women that are pregnant, even not kohanos, even Israelis, even if they're not kohen, they should not go into a biskvaros. There's a minhag not to go to biskvaros. He says we don't have any source to that minhag, but there is an idea. He brings it in the name of the Sefer Heishim Moshe that anything that old women say, So it's something you have to follow. It's something that's coming from above, the seichel. Something that's coming from, it's like almost like a little bit of a nevuah. So if so, what's the pshat in this minhag? The women that are pregnant, even Israelis, should not go into Beis Kvaros. So the Mechasidra goes on to explain in length that we know the Gemara brings that when they used to take care of the meichatos, they made sure that the children that took care of the meichatos of Parah Adumo, where they got completely tar. So what do? They went to give birth al asela. The woman gave birth on top of a rock and made sure that these children never became tameh until they brought the water of the meichatos to the Beis Hamikdash. So it brings the Nesiv Chaim, but if they just gave birth there when they were pregnant, they went into Oyel HaMeis. These children are already tameh. Unless you want to say that Tumah Blua is not metame. But we saw all these Achreinim that say that Uber Me'imoy is considered to be a part of her limbs and does get tameh. So you have to say that the minhag then was that these women, they wanted to have their children doing the Efer Parah Aduma, the Mei Parah Aduma, they did not go into Beis Kvaros during the time of the pregnancy. They were very careful in order for the child not to become tameh, because they wanted them to be pure from the beginning. It says this is the makar of the minhag, that any pregnant woman should not go to Beis Kvaros, because maybe this child will be Zayche, Beis Hamikdash will be built, and this child will be the one bringing the Meichatos to Beis Hamikdash. So though today we're all tameh, but we try our best to limit the tumah. So pregnant women did not go into the Beis Kvaros. That's the shirish of the minhag that we have today. Fascinating inyan based on our sugya. Anyone who wants to join or sponsor the Shomachshava Shiurim, please email shomachshava@gmail.com.